This is the Newsload.
Hi, I'm Carrie Anne Stevenson, and we're here with Newsload, and today we are interviewing Paul Thompson. Hello, Paul. How are you today?
I'm very good. How are you?
I'm wonderful. So, where are you right now?
Right now, I'm in Toronto. Yeah, where are you?
I'm in London, just up the
In
street.
London. Okay, cool. London, Ontario.
Yes.
I know. It's hard because I see the globe in the background, so I don't know which London you are. London, Australia, or London, England. I don't know.
No, just London, Ontario.
I love London, Ontario.
It's pretty wonderful. Apparently on Uber, and apparently Playboy says that London is one of the best party towns because of the university. So
And it's very small too. That's what I found.
and safe, like I can walk around at 2 a.m. and feel okay. It's not
Absolutely.
awesome, but it's not Toronto.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's good because when something's like small like that, and then very like populated, I always find that kind of makes things like safer, Like Toronto, people will say that Toronto is very dangerous, but it's like downtown, I always feel safe. It's only like when things get quiet, And then also like being somebody from the city, it's like you find sometimes even if I'm in a very safe place, like if I go visit my parents and they're in like a suburb, even if I'm going for like a 2-minute walk at like 2 a.m. from like one house to the other, I'm like, nobody is around. And if you see one person, you're like, why are you out at 2 a.m.? I'm scared of that guy.
And people don't look out their windows anymore, or, if they hear a noise, they're not going to check it out. It's none of their business.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So where are you originally from?
I'm from everywhere, from all over. So I was born in Alberta, but I only lived there for 2 months. And then I lived in Winnipeg for 6 years. And then I lived in Texas. And then I lived in Ottawa. And then I moved to Toronto to pursue comedy after when high school was done.
Texas is so random. What was in Texas?
My dad was working in Texas. So my dad did some work with the Air Force and stuff in Texas. And that was awesome. Yeah.
Oh, so you're a military brat.
Military brat. Yeah, exactly. I don't know where the term brat comes from. I always find that funny, but it's like,
I think it possibly has to do with the fact that you get away with it because dad's in the military and he's an authoritarian. So if you like rob the local liquor store or something, you're probably not going to get in trouble because daddy is, an authoritarian. I guess. I assume that was the situation.
Yeah. But I mean, anybody who I know, we have been the opposite because we've been forced to move around and stuff like that. So when you're going from like you're starting a new school every 2 years, you kind of learn to just like be polite and get better at meeting people and stuff like that, So I think if in fact you were a military kid and you were moving around and all of a sudden you're starting a new school in grade 6 and you were a brat, you would have a pretty bad life.
Yeah. But I wonder if there were less consequences because you knew you'd have to move in 2 years so you could be a dick. But,
That's
if you
true.
want to make friends, you're nice. So I guess that helps with stand-up because going to a new club and with a new audience and such, you're trying to be awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's definitely been beneficial in like all of the different types of audiences, especially in Toronto that we do, that I kind of find that's like one of my positive benefits from that is that I can like settle into a lot of different types of audiences. So for sure.
Do you have siblings?
I do. Yeah. I'm the middle and I have 2 sisters.
The attention-seeking middle. Another reason why you're in stand-up.
Yeah. Are you in the middle too?
I am.
Okay, cool. Do you have brothers or sisters?
I have sisters. Yeah, we both have sisters. It's
All girls.
all girls. So, and my dad left when I was early. So I'm still very confused by boys. So I do enjoy the stand-up world and being backstage with the, I hate to say the animals, but, in the, in the green room where the real stuff happens, the real conversations and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's a lot of boys in stand-up. That's for sure.
Yeah. You are married to a stand-up comedian though. Am I wrong?
No, not.
Okay,
No.
I'm wrong.
Yeah. I've dated stand-up comedians, but at the moment, no. At the moment, I'm Single, alone, and sad. That's it. Yeah.
You'd think because we're such entertainers that we're easily loved, but I think possibly the jumping around makes it difficult to hold
Mhm.
a relationship.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, like, it doesn't seem like, maybe when like I was young, but at this age, like, unless I was well established and making more money than your average Canadian comedian, it does not seem like I bring a lot to the table. You know what I mean? So it's like, it is pretty tough. Yeah. And people are like, well, girls always like funny guys. And you're like, I mean, for the night, maybe, but it's like, I think that they don't realize that there's a lot that comes with it, and that there's a lot of sadness to stand up to.
Yeah, there's not a lot of girls who want to take care of the guy and, pay all the bills and,
Hmm.
but there are some comedians who've, hooked up with doctors and some successful ladies who love a good
Yeah,
laugh. So, maybe
yes,
maybe try more hospital charitable fundraisers or something and
no,
find
for sure. Yeah,
find a talented gynecologist.
yeah, exactly. Somebody who just needs like some spice in their life, and I can provide that, and then they can provide the actual things that need to be provided.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm. Definitely.
So, you have quite a phenomenal online presence. I love your
Well, thank you.
stand-up bits and everything. How long has it taken for you to, get such a good following?
Um, I've always been kind of online posting and stuff, but as of this year, I made like a point to try and like post at least every day. So I kind of like go easier on the weekends because that's often when there's a lot of shows. So since January of this year, I've managed to post 5 times a week, even with traveling and everything like that. And that's allowed my following to go from, probably when I started, I was at around 2,000, and now I'm getting close to almost six. So that's pretty good, 4,000 followers in the
It
last year.
is. It's really good. And, your content is funny. It's, relatable. Some of it is just like, catching a great song while you're doing the dishes kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yeah.
I noticed you do impressions.
Sometimes, yeah, I can sometimes.
What's
Mhm.
your favorite to do?
Um, I think often, mainly one of the main things that I'll do, I don't really have anything that's like a go-to impression right now, like any celebrity impressions or anything like that. I find, as far as impressions go, that if I work somewhere, let's say, like growing up, like if I was working in a kitchen or something, and being around people, I'd get really good at doing an impression of somebody, or like I can do a really good impression of like a friend sometimes. But I don't really like work on celebrities or anything like that. And then in the same way, like there's certain accents that I can do well, but I don't really have like an arsenal that I can pull from it. But like I lived in Newfoundland for 2 months this summer. So when I came back for about 2 weeks, like if I was talking about Newfoundland, like my Newfoundland accent I found was like perfect. And then if I hang out with my Jamaican friends, like for a full day even, and then I'm doing a show or something, like I'll find that that accent will be on point. I can kind of sponge up the way people talk and stuff like that. But I'm not one of those guys who, I have friends who are like very good at accents. And if you're like, do the Scottish one, they can do the Scottish, do the British, do this, do that. You know what I mean? But for me, I'm like, it's kind of like whatever one I'm working on at the moment I can do.
I'm in love with David Spade's impression of being on a first date, and it goes a little
Hmm.
something like, "Come on, chug it." There you
Yeah, that's hilarious. Yeah, I love those kind of impressions too. That's kind of like a lot of like, I really like with those characters and stuff. I like, beyond impressions being like, this is my impression of David Spade or something. I like when people do like, this is my impression of a guy who knows he's about to get arrested, but he's trying. You know what I mean? Like when they set up situations, that's kind of like a lot of like my inspiration, and kind of a lot of like like a lot of the reels and Instagram content that I like watching, that I'm trying to recreate, is often like just like a situation like that and then just doing it.
Because you have such a decent online presence, have you been, people slid into your DMs and, said some crazy things to you?
Um, Not so much in the DMs, I find, like lately. as far as like crazy, not really. Sometimes like people will like slide in, and I'm not at a level of like, like the DMs are blowing up. So I'll respond to anybody, and if they want to keep talking, like I'll keep responding. But there is certain times where like, somebody will like say, hey, I like your video, and you're like, oh, thank you so much. And they're like, how's your day going? And I'm like, good, how about you? And then all of a sudden, like, I won't respond to that person in 2 weeks, and they'll be like, I thought we were friends. You know what I mean? Like, that's a little bit like, but as far as like mean things, I never really thought about that until you mentioned it. Like, I think which is quite toxic, where like the internet is right now, I don't think anybody has in the last year slid in the DMs or gone to my DMs and said like a negative criticism or said anything mean. If they're going to do that, they do that publicly in the comments, because they want attention from that.
The most interesting thing that happened to me was I was working a festival this summer, and a guy just rushed the stage and gave me a hug. And I was like, okay. And he reeked of cigarettes. So I just said in the mic, you smell like cigarettes and sadness. And he found me on Instagram and messaged me saying, you're not funny, kind of thing. And I feel that he was embarrassed at the festival in front of everybody that I made that kind of a comment. But to find me on Instagram and to message me, it was weird. It like the fact that we're so public that anybody can contact us. We're pretty much open. But nothing crazy. That's good. Yeah. Have you met any famous people that you've just been like, oh my God, this is amazing?
Yeah, I mean, a lot. Like, definitely throughout doing stand-up, what's kind of cool about it is like, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of like, I don't watch stand-up all the time. Obviously there's stand-ups that I like and stuff, but that's one thing that you'll kind of realize, that it's a small world, where sometimes I'll talk to someone and they'll be like, oh, such and such is like my favorite comedian. I love them, and I'll be like, oh yeah, like I opened for that guy 4 years ago or something like that, So there's a lot of people, but like I met Dave Chappelle 10 years ago, and that was like really, really cool. I think that's the coolest, like, where it was like, yeah, like when you say like, oh my God,
What happened with Dave? Where were you? What happened?
What was like so cool about Dave, and like what like I appreciate was my friend was opening for him and would like often open for him a lot. So he was like, when the show's done, like this is the door that Dave comes out, and just like wait with me here, and Dave will come out, and then like I'll introduce you, right? And we're like, okay. And it was me and my friend Mike Rita, who's also a comedian. And then like 4 or 5 people figured out that Dave would also like be coming outside. So they were there. And then when Dave came out, they're like, oh my God. And they were all like this. And we were just hanging out with my buddy, and like, can we get a picture in this? And he was kind of like, yeah, blah, 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 blah. And then my friend was like, these are my buddies. And he was like, hey, nice to meet you. Just kind of like in the robotic mode. And he was like, they're stand-ups. And when he said that we were stand-ups, his eyes just like lit up, and he's like, how long have you guys been doing it for? And we're like, oh, like 3 or 4 years. And he was like, so do you do open mics? And we're like, yeah. And he's like, what are they like? And like, he just wanted to like ask us questions. And like, that's something I've never forgotten, and something that like I always appreciate when I see how much success and how much people love like Dave Chappelle and how good he is at stand-up. And it's like, that's so cool that like I know from that interaction that it's like that comes because like he loves it, he really does love it. And like I relate to that as well too, in the sense that like I'm always really, anybody that wants to give me a compliment, like I love that, obviously. And anybody that wants to say like, I love your stand-up, like I love that, but when I talk to somebody and they're like, oh, I do stand-up too, but I've only done it 5 or 6 times, like I get this like excitement, you know what I mean? If I can talk to somebody who also just like loves it and like loves doing it, like sometimes I'll talk to people and I can't relate to that so much, that they liked my show and they love stand-up, and they're like, oh, and like, like this guy's new special, like he had a joke and like that kind of like, it made me think in this, and they talk about stand-up. It's like, I don't like love watching stand-up like that, so I can't relate. I'm just kind of like, oh, that's cool. And like, have you heard of this guy? And I'm like, no, you know what I mean? But like, that's cool. But when I talk to somebody else who loves doing stand-up, like I can talk about that for so long. I really love, like, not as much as like I love watching stand-up. I just love doing stand-up, and I love analyzing the art and the process and like that, you know, like I can think and talk about that for so long. It's so
absolutely cool. Tom Segura likes to compare stand-up comedians like serial killers. You know, your style isn't like mine, but
right.
I respect what you do and how you do it, kind of thing. So, you know, it's fascinating, the addiction to when it's dead silent and then it echoes with laughter because of you and what you said.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It is. It's like, yeah, it's really cool. I think like the biggest thing for me, like I love the feeling so much. Like people always say, like, you know, when a joke, like if I have a joke that's like I've figured out and I've been doing it for 2 years and stuff, and then you go and like this is now like a material, and then I'm at a big place and I do the joke and the joke kills and people are like, that must feel amazing. Like, of course it does. And like, that's awesome, as it always would. But like the best feeling is like sometimes you'll say something for the first time and then it just works. And like, that's an incredible feeling where like, I knew that would work. And like, oh my God, like, I think I have a new joke. And then the next time you do it, it's like, it doesn't do well. And then it doesn't do well, and it doesn't do well, and then it's not doing well. And then like really sitting down to be like, it's because if I say that first, that gave away that, and then this, and like just this whole thing, like for me, like the Rubik's Cube, the puzzle, when you're like this, that, you're like, I got to not mention that part, and then I'll mention this. And you're like, okay. And then when you go to the show and you do that, and it's like, boom, 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 and it works, that to me is like the best feeling of like, oh, I figured out the puzzle. You know, I love that so much, you know, like I love just figuring out the joke and like how to make it work. It's so that's the addiction for me, you know?
Wonderful. Wonderful. So, how do you want the audience to know how to follow you? What do we do? Do you have a website, Facebook, Instagram?
Yeah, Instagram is definitely just like the best way, right? So I just always say Instagram, which is just Paul Thompson Comedy. That's the best way. And then with Paul Thompson Comedy, then there's like the link in my bio, which would send you to the YouTube and all that. Everything's just Paul Thompson Comedy. So there's the YouTube, and then, but all of my content, everything I post to Instagram, and then the special is on YouTube, and that's in the link in my bio. And then even on my Instagram, you can go to like, I have an art page because I paint as well. So you can see my paintings and stuff like that. And it's all there.
Your TikTok's pretty popular. I love your TikToks.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Just got to like, you know, post it everywhere and see, you know?
Yeah. And it's interesting because it's like a spider web. Everything, you know, goes out there, and, you know, one of those links hits and entertains, and it's wonderful. Well, Paul, I can't thank you enough for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure. Your hair is stunning. I love the curls. Please don't cut it. It's boyish. It's adorable.
Thank you so much.
It's not a fro, but it's
got a life of its own.
Yeah. It's. But if I could ask you, please, if you could say it loud, say it proud. I love Newsload.
I love Newsload.
Thank you, Paul. I hope you have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
This is the Newsload.